Welcome to this part 2B of K-lining the valve guides of my Moto Guzzi Le Mans 1000. In this particular part, I'll be assembling the valves and valve springs into the two heads. I'll also show the reprofiled rocker arms that I've had done. I had them done by Clive Cams and they did an excellent job. One other thing, I bought myself a new valve spring compressor tool rather than attempt to use that homemade contraption I used in the disassembly. I've given this a bit of a try out. It seems to work fine. It was under 50 bucks off eBay. It's made in Taiwan and certainly seems strong enough for the job. I'd also like to mention that I did a series of 5 videos with Bill Finnegan on the actual K-lining process, which included cutting the valve seats, setting spring height, and setting and checking the rocker position. All quite important information if you're interested. I also did another little separate video on heli-coiling because a couple of the threads in the rocker cover were stripped and I had to heli-coil those, and it's certainly worthwhile doing that before you put everything together. But enough of that, it's probably now time to start assembling the head. Now I've cleaned the heads, the valves, collets, the shims and the springs, so everything is ready to go for reassembly. Now the other thing you want to do is make sure you keep the collets with the shims with the right valve and the right head if you've set up the spring height, or even if you've just dismantled your head and you're putting it back together for whatever reason. Regarding valve springs, the factory does list a spring length in the manual, but according to Bill, that's not always that accurate. If you're worried about just your springs, if you're doing a performance engine or a racing engine, you should probably get the springs checked on a spring tester to see that they are at the correct poundage. But for a street engine, it's probably not that critical, and certainly not critical for my particular bike. So I'm reusing the old springs, and Bill said that they will probably be fine. As springs lose tension, you will lose a little bit off your top RPM that you can rev the engine to. And really for the purposes of what I'm riding this bike to, if I've lost 100 or so RPM off the top end, it's not really much of an issue. Now I've just assembled the collets and everything onto the valve to keep them in the correct order. So we'll do the exhaust valve first. So the first thing we have to do is put the shims on. There's a thick shim which will sit at the bottom, and then a number of maybe either none or a couple of thinner shims which will sit over the top. So put those on first. Then we put on this little spacer which also locates the small spring. Now we need to lubricate the valve stem because it's currently dry. So put a little bit of engine oil in the guide itself, some on the stem. Also lubricate the seat a little bit. Just run a bit of oil around there. Just get that oil around. Now get our springs. Our cap. And our valve tool. Make sure the stem is actually going up through the center there. We'll just screw this up and also check that you've got a correct clearance. I have to rotate this up this way, otherwise it'll bind on the head itself as I screw it in. A little bit too far. Let's just see where we are with these collets. Just use a screwdriver, just pop that in. Beautiful. Pop the other one in. I think I need just a little bit more. Beautiful. Just even out the spacing between the ends of the collets. And now just get a bit of spring tension on that. Check that, that's beautiful. So that's one valve done. Now we'll do the other. Okay. Just put our washers on. There's only one thick washer on this side. A little locator or spacer for the inner spring. And we'll just throw a bit of oil on this and in there. Spin that round a bit, in and out, get that oil well spread. Inner spring on, outer spring, valve cap, and if we can hold it all together without dropping it, get our valve tool. A bit more. I don't think we're quite there yet. I need to wind her in a bit more. Okay, both those collets are in. Now I'll just even out the gap between them. And there we have it, springs assembled. Now I've already done the other head. Did that as a bit of a learning experience. It was a bit more comic. Good thing I didn't shoot that. This side went together a lot easier, and I've got the collets are evenly spaced, the gaps on the ends of the collets. Shims are on correct. Springs, everything's sitting good. So, you know, That's the heads assembled. Next I'll show you the rocker arms and what I've done to those. These are the 4 rocker arms. This is for the left-hand cylinder, this is for the right-hand cylinder. Now they're all exhibiting wear on the tip that contacts the top of the valve on the rocker here, on both sides. The wear is about the same on all 4. And I've been advised it's well worth getting these rocker arms reprofiled to remove these flat spots, and that will certainly assist in reducing the side thrust loading on the new K-line valve guides once they're done, and should actually help promote the life of the new valves a little bit better. Once I've had these done, I'll bring them back and I'll show you what they look like reprofiled. Well, these are the reground rocker arms. This is 2 of them anyway. As you can see, the wear marks have been ground off, and these have been reground to the correct profile for use on the Moto Guzzi. I had these done by Clive Cams in Ferntree Gully, which is just outside of Melbourne, and they did an excellent job, and it cost just under $50 to get all 4 of them done. And I'm quite pleased with how they turned out, and I should get many more kilometres out of them. Now I have hummed and hawed about whether I should be taking the barrels off or not. If you take the barrels off, you disturb the rings, which can affect it when you put it all back together again. Now Bill did say that if I don't take the barrels off, it's likely that this bottom gasket will probably leak, and he's probably right there. There's actually signs of leaking there anyway, so I've decided I will take the barrels off. And the other advantage of taking the barrels off is that you can check the cam followers as well to see if there's any pitting on those. You can check those from underneath with an endoscope camera, but you know, because this lower gasket is leaking anyway, I might as well take this barrel off and check the cam followers, and that way I can replace the gasket. This one's going to come off quite easily. Just be careful of the piston. You take it off. Should have rotated that around, shouldn't I? So I'll just put that down. I'll just check this cam follower. So the exhaust one does have some pitting on it. Check the inlet one. Again, that's also got pitting on it. So both of them are pitted, so I will have to do something about that. Anyway, that's all for this part 2B. The other thing I've organised is I've got head gaskets, exhaust gaskets, base gaskets. Everything is pretty much ready to put the bike back together again. So I'll see you in the next instalment.